Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a Learning and Growing webinar on increasing student engagement, integrating emotional intelligence techniques. Our presenter today is Dr. Cynthia Steele of Alabama State University. My name is Sidra, and I'll be your moderator today for Hawks Learning. We will have a live Q&A session after the presentation, so please enter any questions you have into the Q&A or into the chat modules as we go, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end. I'll now hand it over to our presenter.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me go ahead and share my sound because we do have a video. Again, thank you all for attending today's session, Student Engagement, Integrating EI Techniques, which stands for Emotional Intelligence. So today's objectives: identify and use emotional intelligence techniques to create a more supportive learning environment, and apply collaborative, inclusive, and creative activities to enhance teaching effectiveness and foster active student participation and engagement. And you all, I have this quote here. This is a quote that I have posted in my office. I have it posted on my phone just to remind me of my purpose and what I want to accomplish. And the reason that this presentation is so important is for our students, but it's for us first. In order for us to have a productive learning environment, provide that collaboration, and use these digital tools to that we incorporate in our teaching, we must have a purpose, and we must make sure that we have an increase or enhance or develop emotional intelligence to provide for the needs of our diverse learners. So I like this quote, and I'm going to share it in the beginning, and I'm going to share it at the end. Some of you all have heard of this quote, and maybe you implement it as well. And it says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And when you look and leave a mark or with anyone, whether it's your colleagues or with your students, you have had an impact when students feel wanted or feel that that you had compassion in your teaching, or you provided opportunities for them to grow and to increase their emotional intelligence. Because you all, emotions are real. Yes, they are. We have them. And since we have them as educational practitioners, our students have them. And you know, we have those good emotions, we have those bad emotions too. But in order for us to understand emotions of others, we have to understand our emotions ourselves. And so that leads us into the definition of emotional intelligence. I'm going to share the screen. And so Goldman defined emotional intelligence as the ability to recognize our own feelings and the feelings of others and manage our emotions in a way that will benefit our relationship. You all, I highlighted some key words here. In order for us to have a productive environment, learning environment, and you all, I incorporate these skills into my personal life, my professional life, because these skills are needed for us to grow individually and to be able to connect with ourselves and others. Okay, so there are five components that Goldman suggested. That in order for us to have high emotional intelligence, we need to have self-awareness. We need to be aware of our own emotions, our triggers. Our students need to be aware they need to be aware of their emotions and their triggers. So providing opportunities for students to elaborate on their emotions. And we'll talk about that later on different strategies that we could implement. I'm going to have you to talk about your level. So as I'm talking about each component, start thinking about where you are. Which one would be your top area where you have developed that emotional intelligence? You are aware what causes you to feel sad. Personally, I lost my parents when in my 20s. So I didn't recognize my emotions in my 20s. You know, I lost my parents. And some of you all can resonate, or have you lost someone, or you were sad about something, then you were not able to be your optimum self in the classroom. And guess what? Students notice that when you're not giving you're not at your 100%, don't expect them to be at their 100%. Okay? Because I look at it, your emotions is displayed, as someone used to say, or they say, you wear your emotions on your sleeve. So recognize it for yourself first will help you to provide students the opportunity to recognize their own emotions. And then that leads into self-regulations. What are you doing? Regulation. What are you doing to manage those triggers when your emotional intelligence is low? What are you doing to self-regulate? Well, when I was going through my personal experience of losing my parent, I didn't understand that then until I had to take control because I was not my optimum self in the classroom. I wasn't an optimal self with my colleagues. So I had to learn some self-regulation tools to help me, whether it was deep breathing, whether it was taking a walk, was creating goals for myself. So these are the things that I had to do. And when I learned to do them, as a professional and in my personal life, I can share that with my students. And if you're not teaching any students and you're a leader in your department, the same thing applies to your subordinates. Everybody have emotions and everybody has to find a way to self-regulate, because if you don't, guess what? You become the person that is not lifting someone else or providing them or meeting their needs. Let me say that, or where they need to be, because your emotional intelligence is low, right? And then with that, there's motivation. We have to motivate ourselves, be optimistic, just like our students. And just like I'm doing here, I share this the first week of class. We talk about these because, as I tell my students, everything is going fine now. Okay. But as the semester continues, you're going to have more work. So we need to recognize these early. Motivation. If you're at your lowest point, what can motivate you to get back? If someone mistreated you or you're not doing your work, what can motivate you to get back on track? But you have to start with yourself. Sometimes we lack motivation. Sometimes we do not want to use certain digital tools or other strategies to help our students to get to the next level in the content. Sometimes you providing content and there's no connection to the content, there's that lacks motivation. Why would I read this? Okay. So whether you're in an online class, whether you're in a face-to-face class, you can provide this early. If you're teaching an asynchronous class, you can actually provide a video preparing students for what the content will be about, motivate them to want to continue each section in the module. Okay. And then empathy. And you all, I look at this, if you have self-awareness and you have strategies in place to self-regulate or manage your those stressors, those triggers, empathy will be involved anyway. You're building a community of care, whether it's in your classroom, whether it's in your working environment, whether it's in your home. It all they're intertwined. And then that's with those social skills. When you have all four of those, you will develop those social skills. You're able to create activities where students can be engaged with one another. And we're going to break down each one of those, but I wanted to just share a brief synopsis of the 5 components of emotional intelligence. So now it's time to participate. If you would, this QR code. And what I'm going to do throughout this presentation, I want to show you how I'm engaging you into the lecture and how the strategies that I'm using, you could implement these as well. in your classroom. So this is one of the digital tools that I use, Mentimeter. I really like this tool. If you haven't heard of it, use it, because there are different platforms on there, or different sections, or different options that you can use to engage your students. So what I want you to do, once you scan the QR code, I want you to rate your level. And all you have to do is click on or tap each emotion. And I think you can drag if you want to change it. Okay. So let's look at the results. I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to show you the results of, if anyone is on there, I'm going to show you the results. So what are you doing? You're ranking your emotional intelligence. All right. Well, we have, most people are self-aware. Okay. And if you all can look at my screen as you are voting, empathy. Seems like empathy and self-awareness. All right. Or fighting for first. Okay. I still see people engaging. You all, this is another tool that you could actually use in your classroom to have students to share their opinions. If it's an asynchronous class or a synchronous class, you can use a tool like this and then share the results. So let's look at this. On this call today, we have 32 participants. Most people are self-aware. Then the second, I still see people voting. Most people have empathy. But what I see as fifth, some people lack social skills. Guess what? What you see the rank here, this is what you have in your classroom. Some people don't have all of them. I see you still voting. So you have to determine, where is my level? And if I am at a high level with self-awareness, well, there are other parts I need to work on. And that's the same thing for your students. You all, thank you for participating. These are the results here. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to stop share and share again. So you all have rated your level, but let me tell you, your emotions can go from 100 to low to 0 in a matter of seconds. So I'm going to share a video. And as you watch this video, I want you to share in the chat, what is happening? How did this person's emotions go from high to low in a matter of seconds? You may see yourself in this video. Okay, here we go. Let me share my sound.
Excuse me, can I get a headset?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Oh my God, it's disgusting. Yeah.
Miss?
I'll be right there, sir.
Where's your headset?
She's busy right now, but it's coming.
For crying out loud, you're missing important plot points.
Ma'am?
Could you give me a second, sir?
Excuse me. Could I maybe get that headset, please?
Do not raise your voice to me, sir.
I wasn't raising my voice.
Okay, just calm down.
I am calm. I just want my headset.
Sir, our country is going through a very difficult time right now, and if you're not going to cooperate...
I don't know where a headset ties into patriotism.
Is there a problem here, sir?
I don't think so.
Can you come to the back of the plane with me so we can have a talk?
But talk about what? There's not a problem. The stewardess just keeps...
Flight attendant.
The flight attendant keeps ignoring me when I ask...
Calm down.
I am calm. What is it with you people?
You people.
Oh, now wait a minute. I don't mean you people. I mean you people.
Sir, I will not tolerate any racist behavior on the plane. This is a very difficult time for our country.
I know that. I'm not a racist. I just want to watch the movie.
I'm only going to say this one more time, sir. Calm down.
I'll come!
All rise.
What do you think?
Not guilty. It's a no-brainer.
Mr. Busnick, in case 723, assault and battery against a flight attendant, I find you guilty.
You all, what happened? What happened with Adam Sandler? And just think about it. What causes his emotions? Because he was fine. To go from high emotions to low emotion. All right, I see comments coming in the chat. He wasn't hurt. Thank you, Vicky. That's so true. So as you think about that, you all, and I see comments, other comments coming in the chat. Yes. Their reaction wasn't called for. And you all, this is one of my favorite movies, and you all can look at the the responses in the chat. And you all, guess what? When our emotions are low, these are the things that can happen. We can, and anything can trigger us. If you notice, it was someone there. Yes. I think we can all identify with being in this kind of situation where what we say and how we act are misinterpreted. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Certain triggers for our emotions. Yes. So as you think about this, you all, there are students there are triggers for them as well, just like us. And that's why we have to have an understanding of emotional intelligence so we be able to function in situations that are challenging. He went from asking for a headset to the courtroom where you have charges. But you know what? There are other strategies that he could have done to avoid all of that. And sometimes you all, I'm going to say this, and I tell my students this, and I share this with my students, that you cannot be big and small at the same time. I heard that somewhere, and I've been using that, and it has helped with my emotional intelligence. And I show my students. I have students that come in, they're upset, or they're upset about something that happened a month ago, but they have brought that into their learning. So introducing students to videos like that, and again, the emotional intelligence, there are 5 components, and each component should be a workshop in itself. So I'm combining from our teaching techniques to our teaching perspective and our students' perspective in one. All right, I have comments. You all, like when I talk about this, I take my glasses off so you all will see me doing that. Okay, in my opinion, the people authority were lacking emotional intelligence even more than the passionate. That is so true. So you all, at this point, I want you all to scan the QR code, and there are going to be 2 questions, and I'm going to change the question. I want you to type it. There's opportunity to provide 3 responses. What signs of low emotional intelligence have you observed within yourself, within students or colleagues? And we're only focusing on the low right now. When I change the slide, you're going to choose some high emotional intelligence. So I'm going to stop share, give you a chance to scan, and let's see what the word cloud is saying. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to present. Here are some low social emotional intelligence: self-regulation, motivation, social skills. Wow. Lack emotional literacy, empathy, lack of discipline. Yes. And you all, guess what we're doing? We're doing self-awareness right now without me even talking about it. And if this is you, you may want to take a screenshot of this. This may be you, but guess what? It could be our students too. So we have to humanize the online environment, and we have to humanize our students. They're people just like us. So if we want to see a high level of students being retained in our classroom or participating, we have to give that energy. And so you all, if you recognize this, look at this word cloud. If you recognize this, that means that's going to lead us into developing those high emotional. Now, let's go to the next one. Now I want you to identify or type some signs of high emotional intelligence that you observe within yourself, how you feel, how you notice your students are feeling when you teaching or provided some information and you had them to engage. Okay, patience, empathy, confidence, mastery. And you all, I'm sharing my screen so you can see the responses as well. Kindness. Thank you. You all, if we want our students to have high emotional intelligence, we want the people we work with, we have to be self-aware. So our goal is to develop those low emotional intelligence traits, to have this type of emotional intelligence and have it represented in us. And when we can represent ourselves in this manner, you all thoughtful, cheerful, you will see a difference. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Okay. Any comments on this? And please put that in the chat for me. Any comments before we move on? Any comments? What are you noticing here? And you all, I like to do this in my classroom so students can say, wow, I didn't even think about that. Well, now we're thinking about it. And not only that, when I assign reading assignments or writing assignments, I mention things in this manner so they can relate to it. Give real world connections in your content. Okay, we had a comment in the chat. What are some practical solutions to move from low to high? I'm glad you asked. So let's go. That's a segue into self-regulation. Well, how are we going to move from, let me stop sharing. And you're going to be happy that you mentioned that. So let's go there. And you will find a picture of me. Signs of low emotional intelligence. Let me go back. Let me mention this. And here are some of the comments that I've heard over the years. I've seen, I've heard about low emotional intelligence. This is just an example before we go into self-regulation. And you all, I use that acronym, anger. And when I think about that, I have to ask myself, am I experiencing this? Because if I'm experiencing, again, I won't be my optimum self. I want to move to this level. So someone asked, do we do that? Well, you all, and you all, this is just another activity that I want to share, but I want to move on just due to time. But if you wanted to incorporate journaling into your own life and into your students, have them to create a T-chart. And they write down, what are their low emotional intelligence? What are they high? How do you feel when you high, have a high emotional intelligence? And then if there are low emotional intelligence, once you identify them, and guess what? You can reflect on your emotions, reflect on your triggers, reflect on how you respond in different situations. This is what you're going to have to do. How do I develop that? Well, you're going to have to self-manage. And when you learn how to self-manage, and when you self-manage, and it's a picture of me, of using a technique that I had to develop. When I lost my parents, I had to learn to self-regulate by walking, by doing exercises that will help me be a better person. doing things, setting goals for myself. And when I set goals for myself, then I become less focused on those lows. One of the things that my mother told me when I was working on one of my degrees, my dad passed, she said, Cynthia, 4 years from now, or it was 2, I was working on a master's. She said, 2 years from now, you either going to have a degree or not. And your dad's still going to be gone. And that stayed with me when she passed. So I had to start finding ways. For instance, some people say they do deep breathing. Some people walk. Some people do have goals. And I talk about this. Setting goals is, I would tell you, will be number one. Setting goals for yourself. What do you want to do that you haven't done? I share this with my students. What motivates you to learn this material? What is your why? And when you start developing strategies, what strategy may work for me may not work for you. You all, I was at 180 something pounds. My cholesterol was high. And these, I'm telling you real life stories that I share with my students. And you know what? Students appreciate that I'm being authentic. It's not a picture that I just got off the internet. This is what I had to do to self-regulate. But then when I share what I had to do, journaling, moving myself from situations because it wasn't helping me, I begin to be my optimum self because I found ways to self-regulate and develop those emotional intelligence, develop. But guess what? With me developing, my students. And when I look at my surveys and what my students say, I was reading my end of the semester surveys just yesterday. She made me feel like I was her child. She showed that she cared. She gave me strategy. She kept pushing me. But in order for me to do that, I had to self-regulate. So one of the things here that just give you, when you know that you have self-regulated, this is what happens. So one of the things I want to share, develop you a goal. Because if you now have a goal, you don't have anything to work toward. And these are some signs of low regulation. Anxiety, inappropriate behavior. You're acting out of character. A student say something that you didn't like, then you get on their level. Instead of listening. Just like in that movie, someone mentioned that. Increased blood pressure, mood changing, the need to respond, unaccomplished goals, view challenges as threats. And there are others in the chat. What other signs of low regulation, self-regulations that you have seen within yourself, or students, or colleagues? Sometimes we view challenges as threats and we give up. Okay, so with that being said, as I tell my students, we have to establish goals. What is something that you would like to accomplish? So I'm going back to the chat to see if anybody put anything in the chat. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen now? And you could put that in the chat. Okay. So with that being said, let's do this. You may not know what goals that you have. Let's see if you can see the chat. Let me see my screen. Okay, thank you so much. This is what I was showing. I didn't know if you all saw that. Did you all see that? I'm sorry, I apologize. Technology can be our friend and sometimes not. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So this is what I was sharing, that these are techniques. This is how you know you have self-regulation and you have managed it. Okay, thank you so much. So this is what I was referring to, and this is me. And people around you may say that you have changed. They may ask you why you're doing it. Whatever you're doing, whatever you want to accomplish, I tell my students, always have goals. And this is what I was sharing as well. What are signs of low self-regulation? And if you have any of these, we have to learn development. You can't allow students, you can't expect students to do well and you're not using self-regulation techniques to share with them. At the beginning of the semester, a student was strong. Then you notice around the middle semester, students are not the optimum self. It's something going on. But if you're not able to recognize those signs, how can you help them? So here we go. August, we have 3 months. What would you like to accomplish by August 24? That's in 3 months. So you have several selections. And when you decide what's something that you would like to accomplish, when you're at your lowest point, start working on things that you can control. And there may be times you will maybe uncomfortable because it's a challenge. So scan the QR code and let's see. You may have to think about this. You all, this is an activity that I do with my students. And then sometime within 3 weeks before we go into our next content selection or next module, I remind students, you all, let's go back and visit. Or if I'm teaching an asynchronous class, I put that in one of the folders. Go back and visit your goal. And guess what? When you spend the time working on your goals that you set, and it's not easy. It is not easy, but it's going to help you regulate when you're at your lowest point and start working on it. So let's see what our peers, our colleagues are saying.
There is a question in the chat that says, what are some practical solutions to move from low to high?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So the first is to establish goals. Establish a goal, in which I mentioned that earlier. Establish that goal for yourself. And you all look at the screen, and this is what your peers are saying. I'm presenting my screen. If you can't see it, just let me know. And you all, breathing techniques. You have to decide what works best for you. Talking to a friend, surrounding yourself with people that share the vision. If you're at a low point and you're surrounding yourself with somebody else at the low point, you all just going to just feed each other. And I tell my students that. So if you look here, and I tell my students that. So there are different strategies this is just only your circle matter. Yes, your circle does matter. And guess what? You feed off of each other. So yes, you may have to change your group. I tell my students, when we're working on projects together, you all in a working environment, in your classroom, students have to learn those social skills. You have to learn those social skills. So if you look at the screen, we have several people. There people have goals. But guess what? If someone has others, someone in the chat tell me, and I don't know if you were able to respond. Let me go back. In the chat, someone tell me, what is your other goal? Give me an other goal in the chat. So if you look at that, you all, that's the first step. Establishing you some goals. And then therefore, when you're at your lowest point, you don't feel motivated. Start thinking about what you want to accomplish. Okay. Time to read. Thank you. Being more patient. And guess what? It works. It works. And when I share this information with my students, be creative, make a project. Yes. Slow down. Write an article. And I think people put in chats, they may didn't get a chance to scan, but thank you. Yes. And guess what? These same skills that we're asking for ourselves, or we asking for our students, it starts with us. If you look at the time, we started at 10. We have been engaged, and we only have about 10 more minutes. And this is how I set the structure for my class. Socialize with friends more. Yes. And guess what? When you start doing that, working on yourself, you will start seeing a difference in your teaching, your social skills. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop share. Thank you. I'm just looking at the comments. Seek personal growth. And when you have this time for you, I'm telling you, your students see it. Be more physical active. I can be such I think we all can, John. We can. But we have to understand when we're like that, and when our students like that, and we're not energetic and being enthused, the students recognize that. So yes, going to different workshops, talking and learning, implementing different tools, that is great. But if our emotional intelligence not there, guess what? What are we doing? We just doing busy work. So one of the things that I have, and this is maybe something you can do, that this is another activity. I have students to create a vision board. This me. I'm working on an article. So you all, when my emotional intelligence are low, when I think about my parents, when I think about them that just sad, I start working. And I create a digital visual board. And I take a picture of that sometimes. And when I'm not feeling the best, or someone has upset me, or things are not working right, oh, I have some goals. And so you have to tell yourself, I'm only going to stay here for a minute. Thank you. Anybody here have hobbies? Oh, I think that's a wonderful instrument. My dad used to play the guitar. Start working on that. I like that. And then you share that with your students. And you all look at the comments, your colleagues. These are things that you can do. And when I say create a vision board, guess what? And then I'm going to show you an example of what my students did. You all, when you develop that self-regulation and you develop those skills and you start honing in on that, guess what? You build and maintain relationships. You accomplish goals. You are more empathetic. When you have low emotion, how can you be empathetic towards someone? It's hard. And I have accomplished goals here too. Your long-term, look at this, long-term results versus short-term pleasures. I tell my students, they like when I say that. You getting upset or quitting on your class, or stop attending class, how is that going to benefit? Right? So you all, as education practitioners, you shift your focus when you learn how to self-regulate. And there are several other comments in the chat. So here's an activity. One of the things, not only talk about emotional intelligence, have students involved with it. And what I did, I have students create a vision board, and they actually share it. You all, when I tell you at the end of the semester, I have my students say, let's go back to our vision board. And those students that are their grades are not where they want to be, guess what I noticed? I always have a conversation. Go back to your vision. And you all, when I tell you 9 out of 10, it makes a difference. For the ones that want it but just need someone else to help them get to the next level. And I hope, what app do you use for a digital vision board? You all, I like using Padlet. And what I've noticed with students, they are creative. Remember, we have digital learners. They use Canva, they use Google Slides, and they find these pictures themselves. So I have them to be creative. They are digital, they are digital natives. They are so creative. And you all, when I say they actually visit this, I say, go back to it. It works. All right, you all. Again, I'm including a lot of information, but you all here, just having the idea, if you're looking for increased engagement among your students, if you're looking for them to be their optimum level, it has to start with you. Another component of emotional intelligence, motivation. What are you doing to motivate your students? What are you doing to motivate yourself? And I like this quote. I share this with my students. And one thing my students going to say, for the first 5 minutes, that's still going to make sure that we be connected. If you're not connected, disengage, there's no learning. Let's see what's in the chat. Canva is a great creative app, and it's free. Yes, it is. Thank you, Christine. But you all, this is important. And again, this is another workshop in itself. But in order to get to this level, we have to be self-aware. We have to be able to self-regulate, as we discussed, in order to motivate our students, give them the tools. So the whole purpose of this workshop is saying, let me have an understanding of emotional intelligence and research ways that I can bring this into my class. Help them to be optimistic. As we all know, we've been there. We haven't always been where we are. We was once a student too. Remember my story? Losing my parents, losing a loved one, and other things that have happened. That if I did not develop emotional intelligence, I would not be where I am. So I'm not going to stay on just for a few minutes. I wanted to just bring a motivation. I want to get to social skills. This is so important right here. You all, in order for us to have social skills, well, first of all, we're going to need to be engaged, right? With others. You have to look at it. And I put this picture here for a reason. You all, I believe that and you all could tell me in the chat, if you had high social skills when the pandemic hit, our social skills was not the same, right? We actually enjoyed just having virtual meetings. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. You can put it in the chat if you did. But guess what? Our social skills kind of decreased during that time. And guess what? Our students, remember, they are digital natives. They were born in a world of digital in social media. I don't know, I'm telling my age here. I remember when we had just MySpace. I don't know who remember that. I'm telling my age. But we didn't rely on social media. And you all, when students lack social skills, they're not able to collaborate with others and that's us too. So you all, I have to share, we cannot just say that the students are engaged in social media. We are too. And what happens when we are engaged, we're spending more time on social media instead of developing ourselves because we're looking at a distorted reality. This is where our students, I know some of you all may agree with this. You're looking at what everyone else is doing around you instead of developing your social skills. But remember, social media only going to give you what's perfect. But you don't know what's on the other side. As you can see the apple right there. So, and y'all can see let me know if you can't see my screen. But I am sharing. So what I talk to my students about, I develop ways for them to have social skills, to maintain their social skills. And that's what they like most about my class. Is because we're not just looking at perfection. We're looking at that we're going to have some forming stage. We're going to have that norming stage. We're going to have that storming stage. And that's just like with your colleague. So this helps. And let me tell you what I do. Collaborative opportunities. We do group projects, you all. Peer reviews. Collaborative problem solving. And what I like, one of the activities that I like, and I'm going to tell you about this picture as well, is creative writing. Having them write, and I'm a reading instructor, having them write another ending to the chapter. You would be so surprised how they work together and want to share their ending. You all, not only can you do this with your students, you can do this with your colleagues. You're like, wow. This was actually fun. In those asynchronous classes, I don't know how many people use Flipgrid, but that gives them, again, they are digital natives. And that video gives them a chance to connect with one another. So you all in the chat, what do you do in your class or with your colleagues to develop your social skills? In the chat. And if you don't have any, what would you like to do? Perusal, yes, that's a great one. Anybody else? And sometimes we have to think about it. And if we do not have any activities for ourselves or for our students, we're going to have to research. Oh, that's a good one. So let's just give it just a few minutes to just reflect. A few minutes. Yes. And if you have not started, start with yourself first. And again, and I know you said, wow, maybe I haven't. Somebody may say, well, I haven't done any of this. You can start today. So I wanted this workshop to be about starting with self first. And then once you start with self, you become more creative for your students, and you will see a change in students. Don't rely on my word, try it. This is a class, students, we talk about a lot of different vocabulary words. Instead of me creating all the vocabulary reviews, I had them to work together. They worked together to develop their own. And what I like, they didn't just have multiple choice. They had sentences included, and the students had to determine the vocabulary word based on the sentence. And the funny part about it, they worked together, and they said, Dr. Steele, we didn't want to make it easy for them. So we all created our own sentences. And guess what? Most importantly, they knew each other's name. And when you involve, thank you, let's see what's in the chat. Attending more webinars about learning and teaching in a new world of AI. Yes, that is true. There's that's a whole workshop in itself. But you can do it. But start with yourself first, because AI is not only affecting our students or going to or have an impact on our students. Let me say that. It's going to have an impact on us too as educational practitioners. But how we're going to develop those social skills to engage our students. So you all, guess what? When you are able to implement social activities or collaborative activities, there's a peer connection. It enhances relationships, less likely to experience burnout. You follow through on commitments, and you engage in meaningful conversation. You're talking about things you want to accomplish. Remember the goals that you want to achieve? You start talking about, look at the chat. Oh, I didn't think about that. I want to play a guitar. I want to learn the piano. All of those things, let me tell you, it's incorporated together. And when you having conversation with your students and you're talking about your content, build your emotional intelligence first, and you will see the change. And this is another activity. Again, this is that emotional intelligence journal. Emotional intelligence journal. Creating a T-chart again. Divide the chart into two parts. My social skills. What am I doing? What are my class doing? Or I'm just posting content? Or I'm creating videos to humanize the online environment. Yes, AI is here, but we still need that human touch. AI can't provide me with empathy unless, maybe you put something in AI and it say, have a great day. But again, do not be fearful of AI. It's here. Again, that's another workshop in itself. But what I want you to do is create those opportunities to engage with others. Surround yourself with lifters, and encourage your students the same way by implementing those activities. Okay. So again, you all, emotions are real. You're not the only one that have emotions. Keep in mind your students have emotions, and develop strategies that's going to foster community, going to foster a learning environment. And when they leave your class, they will say or have this thought in their head. Guess what? I know my instructor cared. Or even if you are a leader, your subordinates should be able to, when they leave your office or they leave a presentation or leave your faculty meeting, that you made them feel some kind of way. And you all, that's what I enjoy doing. I want to have a lasting impact. Create an environment that students appreciate, that years from now, they remember how I made them feel through my own self-awareness, creating opportunities for them to be self-aware, creating my own self-regulation, providing opportunities so they can create their own, providing that opportunity for motivation, motivating themselves. Great job, providing that constructive feedback, not just posting an assignment, providing empathy. Check on those students you haven't heard from. Check on that colleague you haven't heard from. It works. And you all develop those social skills. We need them at this point. We need it for all of us so we could be productive, accomplish our goals, and we can be better people for ourselves and for others. You all, thank you for your time. I hope I said something. I hope I motivated you. If you want more information on emotional intelligence, again, within an hour, if you look at the time, this is how my classes go, you all. My students say, wow, we finished already. You all, it has been 52 minutes. And what I wanted you to see is how you can identify emotional intelligence, be able to use some skills. And I want you to see how I engage you in this lecture. And I hope I have given you something to think about. Contact me. And also, when you receive the feedback, the survey, please, 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 I love to hear from you. And I hope this had an impact on you. And I'm going to leave you with something that motivates me in the morning, and it encouraged me to move forward. This is a song, and thank you. Thank you.
Gonna make a change.
It starts with you.
For once in my life, it's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right.
Thank you.
As I turn up the collarbone, my favorite winter
Y'all have a great
coat.
semester.
This wind is blowing my mind.
It
I
starts
see the
with you.
kids in the street
Yes.
with not enough to eat.
Let's create a
Who
different
am I
environment.
to be blind, pretending not to
Thank
see
you all.
their need? A son's disregard,
Contact
a
me.
broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the window,
Thank you, Sherry.
'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know.
Thank you, Dr.
I'm
Pickard.
starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways.
Thank you.
And no message could have been any clearer. If they wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Yes, John. That's right. That's right, John.
Na 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 na. I realize there was someone home, not a nickel to love. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone?
Thank you so much. That was such an amazing lecture. All right. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you all for attending today. We will be emailing you a link to view the recording of this webinar once it's available. And please do submit your surveys as well. We love the feedback. If you or any of your fellow instructors are interested in presenting for our Learning and Growing webinar series, please submit your proposals to the Learning and Growing website, which I'm going to go ahead and link in the chat now for easy access. Oops. There we go. These free webinars are brought to you by Hawks Learning, an innovative educational courseware company. To learn more about our mastery-based course materials and how Hawks can enhance learning outcomes for you and your students, please visit hawkslearning.com, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.